Good day, everyone. This is a quick little tutorial about the Dakota pipeline. We're going to be discussing the pipeline in class on Sunday, October 9th. And so this is going to give you a little bit of background information on the pipeline. Learning objectives for this is learn about the U.S. pipelining network, what's hydraulic fracking, EIA websites, and to understand different points of views about how we use our natural resources. There was a request last week about resources people wanted to have for discussing the environments with other people. This is a great website. It's the United States Energy Information Administration of websites. They have a fantastic websites. They have all kinds of data, both in terms of energy, water, and waste, not just U.S. data, but global data. It says beta, don't be scared off by that. What happens is they used to have all this information in tables and charts that you had to dig through for hours. Now they've made it much more interactive where you can just pick your data files you want and you can plot whatever it is that you want. You can plot OPD versus LES versus NPD's cost of electricity for residential and consumer and commercial customers. Okay, previously that would take you an hour to go through to find all the tables. You'd have to take the data out of it and put it in Excel. Now you can graph it here on their websites in just a few seconds. So this is a really nice asset for those interested in that. Let's start off with kind of a basic question. If I were to ask you which country produces the most petroleum today, what would be your answer? If I ask the same question regarding natural gas or coal, what would be your answer? My guess is for oil, most of you would answer the leading producer of oil would be Saudi Arabia, or maybe Russia, or maybe United Emirates, or Brazil, or whatever. What I think has been one of the most underreported stories of the last few years is how much hydrocarbons the United States is producing. And in fact, as of 2013, the United States became the leading producer of both petroleum and natural gas. Here is a graph of the leading petroleum producers for 2015. And as you can see here, by a wide margin, the United States has become the leading producer of both petroleum and natural gas. So a couple other things to notice from this graph. The United States, Saudi Arabia, and Russia produce almost as much oil as the rest of the world combined. In terms of natural gas, here the United States and Russia produce probably as much natural gas or more than natural gas than everybody else combined. And in terms of coal, China actually is by far the world's leading producer of coal and produces just as much coal almost as the entire world combined. Why is this? Well, this is a plot for oil producing from 1973 up until 2015. You can see here where Iran and China have kind of constantly increased over the last decade or two. Saudi Arabia has kind of come up and down based on OPEC decisions of producing. Russia started off small, but since about 2000, they've really been ramping up oil production. The United States, which believe it or not, was a major producer of oil, mostly out of Texas, a few decades ago, fell over time as they couldn't compete with OPEC oil, but due to fracking mostly, and access to all these shale formations since about 2009, our oil production has just skyrocketed, almost a straight line up. This is a plot of where our natural gas comes from, again from 1990, and predicted out forward over the next 20 years. This is a line for 2015 data. As you can see here, since about 2008, when fracking and horizontal drilling became possible and actively combined, The amount of natural gas we're getting out of shell rock formation has just exploded and is predicted to continue to explode for many years in the future. What is hydraulic fracturing? Hydraulic fracturing has been around since about the 1940s. It has been standard drilling technique since at least the 1970s, and the majority of wells drilled in the U.S. today uses fracking. The difference is the hydronic fracking and the horizontal drilling techniques combined have really changed the game in the last 10 years ago. Horizontal drilling technology has only come online in a cost-effective way in the last decade or so. And hydraulic fracturing is where you pump a liquid, usually water, so it's about 90% water, 5% sand, and 5% additives. Now, or chemicals. Now, we really don't know what these chemicals are because the drillers keep this mix very secret and are not required to report to the EPA or anybody else what chemicals they use. But it's about a 5% chemicals, 5% sand, 90% water. And this mix is pumped at very high pressures down these deep wells. And what happens is this water with the sand kind of acting as a sand blaster is able to break up the shell rock formations deep in the earth, right, and release a lot of the oil and natural gas that's been packed in here at small concentrations. But if you get enough of it, you can get a fair amount of oil and natural gas that you can then suck back up out of your well. Give you kind of some ballpark ideas. Our water table is usually around 500 feet. That can vary from a few hundred to maybe 800, maybe at best 1,000 feet. Then these wells are usually going 6,000 to 10,000 feet deep, and then horizontally they can go another couple thousand or several thousand. So that way you have one well. It's cheaper. You can drill horizontally, making it very cost effective for the driller, and slowly creates large amounts of natural gas and oil over time with just one wellhead. This is a plot. I'm sorry, it's not a plot. It's a map of the United States and a lot of these shell formations which have been discovered over the last few decades. And they have now been actively mined. There have been a couple new ones found recently in the last couple decade or so. Last couple of years, there's not a lot of new exploration, mostly due to the rapid decrease in the cost of oil. But when the oil comes up, you'll probably see more and more drilling for a lot of these resources. Over here is the Marcellus shell. You probably heard this. This is the largest in the country. Goes over West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, up into New York. Very large shell formation. Subject of our case study today is the Balkan Shell Reserve, which is in North Dakota and Minnesota. There are several in Texas that have been going strong for many decades. Also Louisiana and Arkansas and Oklahoma. So there's a large concentration of these shell reserves in the southern U.S., central southern U.S. Again, this is a plot of output for all these different shell reserves. Green is Marcellus, again, producing just enormous amounts of, here it's natural gas. This is about 20 billion cubic feet per day in 2006. I mean, that right there is more than Canada, more than almost all of Europe. So just that one shell formation. Okay, so just to kind of give you an idea how much gas and oil and natural gas is making available for producers and drillers to access now that just wasn't available to the market a decade ago. As you can see, a lot of these are in the Texas and Arkansas area. The Balkan one is actually the 7th largest shell, which is the topic of this formation. And as you'll see here in a few slides, companies are spending billions of dollars just to be at a pipeline to this one shell formation, which is the 7th largest one in the U.S. So now here's a problem for our case study today. You have all these new shell regions, reserves. They're spread across the country, a lot of them in remote areas. And to get any oil or petroleum out of here is great, but that doesn't do you any good until you get it to a refinery. And here's a map of all the refineries in the U.S. As of 2012, there's been some more pop up since then. This kind of gives you an idea. Most of the refineries in the U.S., particularly the large ones, are here along the Gulf Coast in Texas and Louisiana. These have been here for decades due to all the oil drilling in Texas that started in the 1920s and 30s, and this was refining a lot of that oil, as well as Oklahoma in some areas. There are other refineries that are popping up around the country. The one on the east and west coast are primarily just for imports of oil, same as for Alaska, and actually for some export of Alaskan oil. But as you see, there's not many other ones. There's a bunch going up around Chicago. The one here where the Balkan one is going to tie into a pipeline here that will connect it with these refineries. So to get to oil from the shell formations to the refineries, you need pipes, and a whole lot of pipes. Here is a map of the orange is our crude oil pipelines, and the green is the natural gas pipelines. These are only the major pipelines, and major being defined as a pipeline that's, I think, greater than 36 inches in diameter. These are the interstate pipelines. Because they cross a state border, there's a lot more regulatory issues for them to go through. But these are the major pipelines for natural gas and petroleum here in the U.S. This is a plot of both interstate and intrastate pipelines. This is a bit of a dated map. It's from 2011, 2012 time frame. There's been many more pipelines pop up. A lot of these intrastate pipelines are usually based for the local utility to provide oil or natural gas to their clients, but some of these others have other services. So again, believe it or not, there's a whole lot of pipes running underneath your feet. That's kind of a take-home message, and these pipes have been here for decades. So here, let's look at the Balkan region. If you notice, there wasn't a whole lot of, wasn't a whole lot of pipes up here in the Balkan region. Now you're getting all that natural gas and oil from it, so that needs to change. So our case study for today deals with the Dakota pipeline. Transfer Energy Partners has a subsidy called Dakota Access Pipeline, and they proposed a pipeline that would run from the Balkan oil fields here. Balkan oil field here, and tie in Paducah, Illinois, to another national pipeline that would take it to the refineries here in Chicago, St. Louis, or somewhere else. This pipeline crosses 4 states. It runs 1,172 miles. It's a 30-inch diameter pipe. It will transfer, estimates are 470,000 barrels a day of lightweight sweet crude oil. That is a lot of oil. Peak production, probably somewhere around 2017, 2018, would be 100,000 barrels a day. This pipeline is going to cost $3.78 billion to make and construct. It will create about 8,000 to 12,000 construction jobs. However, these are all temporary jobs just for the construction of the pipeline, which is already being built. The company only estimates 40 permanent jobs from this pipeline. So a lot to create, not a lot of jobs to be maintained after that. Although there's a lot of debates, and we can have that debate about whether or not we should be A, drilling, or B, making pipelines. I think that for our debate today, let's just focus on just the pipeline itself and how the pipeline has been mapped. Pipelines are considered by both industry and environmental activists as the safest, most reliable, environmental friendly, and economical method of transporting large volumes of fuel like oil or natural gas. Although they're not completely safe, by many studies, they're far safer than light rail or trucks. But there are some issues. This is a map of all the significant pipeline incidents in the U.S. For about the last 25 years or so. Significant pipeline incidents is defined by the Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration as those events that cause a death, serious injury, $5,000 in damage, or spill more than 50 barrels of oil, or they cause an explosion. So, as bad as this looks, believe it or not, it's the safest way to do it. So let's look at the pipeline. Dakota Access in late 2014 submitted an application to the Public Service Commission of North Dakota, as long as the 4 other states, to build this pipeline. The Public Service Commission of North Dakota in March 2015 scheduled 3 hearings in May and June. They had those hearings. Who showed up at the hearings and who said what has been much debated. I would not be able to find any type of recordings of these events or transcripts, which I think has been part of the issue. In early 2016, the North Dakota Public Service Commission approved the pipeline. In April that same year, once word got out and construction began, there was a lot of protests, particularly at the Standing Rock Reservation, where the pipeline does not actually go through, but goes by. In late April 2016, Colonel John Henderson of the United States Army Corps of Engineers had public hearings close by to the Standing Rock Reservation for Native Americans to express their concerns. These hearings were better attended by the media, and several accounts said that everyone who spoke opposed the pipeline. The United States Corps of Engineers got involved because since it crosses multiple state borders, and since it goes through under the Mississippi River and some lakes, it needed to have Army Corps approval for the pipeline to be built. At the end of July, the Army Corps approved the 3 easements for the pipeline to cross water 2 lakes in the Mississippi River. The next day, the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe filed an emergency injunction to prevent this from happening, claiming that the pipeline would restore sacred sites. And this court case was heard, So they filed the injunction. They did not stop the construction of the pipeline, which continued. Demonstrators started to show up, and the first arrest happened in August 2016. 2 days later, the governor of North Dakota declared a state of emergency and restricted all protests along the pipeline construction route. In late August, U.S. District Judge James Boasman heard the case for the injunction. A few weeks later, the judge came back with a kind of a mixed ruling. He gave temporary stoppage of the pipeline at the sites close to the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe Reservation, where they were claiming could be potential burial sites of ancestors. But he did approve the continuation of the pipeline east of that, so the pipeline can continue to be constructed, despite their complaints about the potential risk to local water quality and access to water. Standing Rock Sioux Tribe immediately filed an appeal, and on October 5th, the Federal Appeals Court in D.C. heard the appeal, and as of right now, that's the latest that we have. So during class on Sunday, we're going to kind of play the NPR Intelligence Square game, where I'm going to ask for volunteers to represent the 2 sides of this debate, the pipeline side and the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. And in case as this event goes, two sides, they'll augur each other, and we'll see how the change of support of the class members. And here are some additional websites and news accounts, a couple editorials of people supporting the pipeline, the websites from the pipeline company itself, so they have their side of the story as well, a copy of the federal injunction that was submitted by lawyers on behalf of the Indian tribe, and a couple media accounts. So please look that over, and we'll discuss it on Sunday. Thank you very much, and have a good week.